The first thought that came to my mind when I woke up was that my throat was a little sore. I tried to speak, but found that I could not. It's because I have something stuck in my throat, something hard. I looked around and realized that I was in a hospital room with tubes and wires connected to various parts of my body. I also discovered that my left arm was in a cast, and I could feel the bandages on my face. What the hell is going on? I was perplexed. How long have I been here? What happened to me? I tried to move, but found it difficult. The door to my room opened and a nurse came in to check on me. She looked at my chart and checked my vital signs, then left the room. A few minutes later, she returned with a man who I assumed was a doctor. He also checked my vital signs and shone a flashlight in my eyes. After he finished humming and grunting, he spoke to the nurse and the two of them removed the tube that had been inserted down my throat. This explained why I couldn't speak before. "Welcome back to the world of the living, Mr. Neely," the doctor said, standing up. By the way, it was me, Jackson Neely, or Jack, to my friends. I tried to speak, but my throat and lips were too dry. The nurse gave me a piece of ice and I sucked on it until it melted. Then she gave me another. "How long?" I managed to wheeze. "You've been here 10 days, Mr. Neely," the doctor said. "You had a slight swelling of the brain, and we put you in a coma to let your head heal. You received a strong blow to the head. Your arm was also broken." He turned to the nursey. "Why don't you call Mrs. Neely and tell her that her husband is awake?" he said. I shook my head when he said that. "No," I told him. He looked at me worriedly. "Why not?" he asked. "She's the reason I'm here," I said, sucking on another piece of ice. "I see," said the doctor. "Then maybe we should contact the police?" I nodded my head. "Yes," I said, "and to a divorce lawyer." The doctor laughed at this. "We'll call the police for you," he said. "In fact, one detective has already asked us about you. However, you will have to find your own divorce lawyer." I nodded my head. "Thanks anyway," I told him. He chuckled, then ordered the nurse to take me for an X-ray. As I was taken back to my room, a man in a raincoat came in and introduced himself. "Detective Mel Green, Metro Police," he said, showing his badge. "Are you feeling well enough to talk for a few minutes?" "Yes," I said, taking a sip of water. He sat down next to my bed, took out a notepad and a voice recorder. He placed the recorder on the tray in front of me and turned it on. "I hope you don't mind if I write this down," he said. "No, not at all," I said. He said something into the recorder to note the date, time, and location of the interview, then turned to me. "Okay, Mr. Neely," he said. "Tell us what happened." "Well, I just got home from spending a couple of days in Pittsburgh with a client," I told him. "I finished my visit a day early and wanted to return home to be with Julia, my wife. When I got home, I saw a strange car in the driveway. I thought she might have had company, one of the girls from her office. I parked in the driveway and walked into the house. Most of the house was in darkness, but I saw light coming from above and heard groans. I had a pretty good idea of what was going on, but I went upstairs anyway. That's when I saw them, Julie and some guy, having sex in my bed. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Well, I walked into the room and screamed. They stopped and looked at me as if I were an alien. The guy got off my wife, and I went at him. I was about to punch him in the teeth, but he beat me to it. Literally, he hit me right in the face. Once, it was the biggest fist I've ever seen in my life. The next thing I remember is waking up here," I said. "Uh-huh," said Detective Green. "Did you recognize the man who was next to your wife?" "No, I've never seen him before," I said. "Did you know that your wife was having an affair?" he asked. "I suspected something was going on, but I wasn't sure," I said. "Wait a minute," I added. "I just remembered. The house has CCTV cameras. I hired a private investigator shortly before my last trip. I wanted to find out if my wife was cheating on me. He connected the house to audio and video connections just before I left. Everything was supposed to be stored on a cloud server. I never Had a chance to check when I got home. They're probably still there. Detective Green opened his bag and took out his laptop. Think you can access it from here? He asked. I think so, I said. I have a username and password written on the back of the card he gave me. It should still be in my wallet. The detective walked over to the small wardrobe in the room and pulled my wallet out of my back pants pocket. I looked through it and found a card. Here it is, I said, pulling out the card. I handed the wallet back and he put it in my back pocket. Angus McGregor, Detective Green said, reading the name on the front of the card. Is this your private detective? Yes, that's true, I said. He's the one who called 911, the detective said. From what I'm told, he gave a statement to the police, then followed the ambulance here and gave the hospital your insurance information. Have you already talked to him? I asked. Yes, said Green. He told me he found you on the floor at the bottom of the stairs and then called 911. There was no one else in the house at the time he found you. Let's see what the video shows us, he added, turning on his laptop and connecting to the hospital's Wi-Fi. Once connected, he turned the laptop around so I could log in. I entered the information Julius had written on the card and was presented with a directory listing videos. I selected a video that corresponded to the time I was at home and clicked play. The video began with Julie, my soon-to-be ex-wife, walking into the living room through the front door, followed by a very large, muscular, bald man. Do you recognize this man? Asked Mel. He's the one who hit me, I said, although I never saw him before that day. We continued watching the video. Looking around the room, Julie turned to the man and gave him a scorching, hot-tongue kiss. Come on, she told him. Let's go upstairs and complete our deal. The big guy grinned and spanked her ass. Let's do this, he said. They walked up the stairs and soon the video ended. I remember Julius telling me that the cameras were motion-activated, so I went back to the catalog and double-clicked the next one in the list. This video began with Julie and the two-legged mountain walking around the bedroom. Julia went to her side of the chest of drawers, opened one of the drawers, and pulled out a thick envelope. She handed it to the man, who pulled out a huge wad of cash. He quickly counted them and put them back in the envelope. Half now, half when the work is done, said Julie, as we agreed. Damn it, I thought. She paid this guy to kill me? He grinned, looking her up and down. Well, sweet cheeks, what do you say if we seal this little deal? He asked. Julia smiled, looking him up and down. Then she started to undress. Soon she appeared naked before him. The man undressed, and they hugged once more before lying down on the bed. Which side does your husband sleep on? He asked. Why did you ask? She asked in response. This is the side I want you with, he told her. She giggled and pointed in the direction closest to the door. He sleeps right here, she said. Okay, he told her, throwing back the blanket. Come on, go there. Let's leave a nice wet spot for him. You are so vicious, she said. He groaned as he thrust into her. She chuckled in response. You like it, don't you? He asked. Oh, yes, she moaned. Much more than my husband. Let's do this until we lose consciousness. We watched the two of them copulate like animals on my side of the bed. They've been doing this for some time. That's when I walked in and took them by surprise. What the hell is going on here? I shouted in the video. The two traders stopped studying business long enough to look at me. A smirk appeared on Julie's face as the big man climbed out of her. I saw myself lunge at a much larger man as he stood, but he stepped back and punched me right in the middle of the face, causing me to fall instantly. He punched me in the face several times, then dragged my limp body out of the room. Julia got out of bed and followed him, not bothering to cover herself. This video ends. I returned to the catalog and selected the following video. The video showed 3 pairs of feet at the top of the stairs. Only one pair of feet, mine, had shoes on. The big man picked me up and literally threw me down the stairs. My body lay motionless at the foot of the stairs. He is dead? Julia asked. I don't know, the man answered. Do you want me to finish him right now? Not in my house, she said. I don't want to clean up any more of his blood than necessary. Let him lie there. Maybe he'll do us both a favor and die. Maybe, said the man. Even if he doesn't, I can go back and finish the job. Let's get out of here. We can finish what we started in my hotel room. A couple of minutes later, Julie and the man came down the stairs, got dressed, and left the house, stepping over my body. Shortly after this, the video ended. Out of curiosity, I watched the following video and opened it. The video showed Angus entering the house. He checked on me, then took out his phone and called 911. He sat next to me until the paramedics and police arrived. I finished watching the video and checked the catalog. After that, there were no more videos. Whatever the traitors did, they obviously decided to do it somewhere other than home. Now what? I asked. Well, we need to find your wife and her accomplice and arrest them, he said. Are you sure you've never met this person before? No, never, I said. You speak as if you know who he is. His real name is James Hammond, said Detective Green. His name is Jimmy Ham. He's an assassin, wanted by the feds for a string of murders. He is well known for killing his victims with his bare hands after cuckolding them. You're damn lucky to be alive. I just can't understand why your wife wanted you dead. From what I know, you are essentially a salesman. Customer service representative, I said, correcting him. I travel and do some sales, but most of my work is keeping clients happy while keeping them profitable. Any problems in your marriage? Green asked. Until recently, no, I answered him. Are you one of those guys who has fun when you're out of town? Asked Mel. You mean, am I cheating on my wife? I asked. Hell no. Do you think I would cheat when this is waiting for me at home? You saw her? Would you chase women with such weapons at home? No, I can't say that I would do it, Green said. So revenge is ruled out as a motive. Tell me, do you have a life insurance policy? Yes, I said. Thanks to my work, I earned $1 million policy. In case of an accident, double the amount is paid. And your wife is the beneficiary of this? Green asked. Yes, I said. But that is not all. What else? He asked. I won a lottery prize not long ago, I said. $3 million after taxes. I was planning to surprise Julie with a cruise for our anniversary. Did she know about the money? Green asked. I told her I won, but I didn't tell her how much, I said. I usually handle all of our finances, so I didn't think she would know about this since she rarely looks at bank statements. So if something happens to you, she could potentially walk away with $5 million, right? Green asked. I suppose so, I said, after thinking a little. Do you think she would really kill me for money? This is one of the oldest motivations known to man, Green said. Damn, I said. Why don't you log into your account and see how much you have left? He suggested. I did this and discovered that Julie had withdrawn $5,000 3 times in the last 12 days. The rest was still in the account. While you're here, why don't you go ahead and cancel any joint credit cards you may have? Once you're done, I'll call and temporarily freeze the account, just until we get her into custody, he suggested. I took his advice and canceled our joint credit cards and also reported her ATM card stolen. When I finished, he called to get an order to freeze Julie's account. Any idea where your wife is now? He asked when he finished. I shook my head. I have no idea, I said. Normally I would say she would normally be home at this time of day, but I really don't know. Angus might know. You're a private detective? Asked Mel. I nodded my head. Yes, I said. Call him, he said, handing me his cell phone. We've been calling each other for the last few days, so he'll still be waiting for my call. I took the phone and dialed Angus's number. He answered after the second ring. McGregor, he said when he answered. Angus, this is Jack Neely, I said. Jack, you're awake, Angus said. God bless, I was so worried. But this is not your phone. No, Detective Green is with me at the hospital, I said. Even better, he said. I tried to contact him, but we continue to miss each other. Angus, do you know where Julie is? I asked. Yes, he said. Put it on speaker and I'll tell you both. I turned the phone on speaker and put it on the tray in front of me. This is Detective Green, the detective said. Can you hear me well, Mr. McGregor? Of course, said Angus. And call me Angus, please. Mr. McGregor was my father. We all laughed about it. So, where is Mrs. Neely now? Asked Mel. She's at the international airport and just bought a ticket to Chicago, Angus said. However, the plane doesn't take off until 4 hours later, so you should have enough time to delay her. What about James Hammond? Green asked. Is he with her? Not now, Angus said. But from what I've learned, he's going to meet her there in the next couple of days. Okay, Green said. Angus, don't take your eyes off her. I'll call and order her to be detained. I will, Angus said before ending the conversation. Detective Green called his partner and instructed him to obtain a warrant for Julie's arrest. Then he made another call and sent an orientation, a bulletin on all points, for Hammond. By the time he finished, the doctor returned to the room. How long is Mr. Neely going to stay here? Asked Mel. Probably a few more days, said the doctor. He's making a great recovery, but, he was beaten pretty badly. Yes, I see that, said Mel. I'm going to arrange for a couple of officers to guard him while he's here, if that's okay. It suits me as long as they don't interfere, said the doctor. Okay, Mel said in response. He turned to me before speaking. Take care of yourself, Jack. We'll be in touch. Call if you need anything. Thank you, Detective, I said. After he left, I went to bed and tried to watch TV, but my thoughts kept returning to my wife. Why would she do this to me? I asked myself. Haven't I been a good husband and provider? I thought back to our life together and wondered what happened to the cute girl I met in college. After high school, I went straight to college. My father worked in a factory all his life and made sure I had enough money for college. So I went and got a business degree. That's where I met Julia Hempstead. I was smitten from the moment we first met. We dated for a couple of years, fell in love, and got married after graduating from high school. I went to work for a financial services company that specialized in helping small and medium-sized businesses maximize profits. She got a job at a bank in the city center. She started as a teller and then moved to the mortgage lending department. We both made good money and bought a house about a year after we got married. The first 4 years of our marriage were wonderful. We had sex almost every day of the week, twice on Saturdays and Sundays. I thought we were a happy couple living the dream. We even started talking about having children. So why, after all this time, did she do this? I wondered. Was it just about the money? My thoughts were interrupted when I heard a knock on the door. I looked up and saw 2 policemen poke their heads into my room. We'll be right outside your room if you need anything, one of the officers said. I nodded my head. Thank you, officers, I said. Soon after, there was another knock, and Angus walked inside. He walked to the edge of the bed and looked me up and down. You look much better than when they brought you, he said. How do you feel? It's like I was run over by a truck, I said. What's happening? Well, they arrested your wife at the airport, he said. As far as I understand, they are charging her with attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder. What about Hammond? I asked. They're still looking for him, Angus said. They also have police stationed at your house, but so far there is no sign of his presence. By the way, I found your phone on the floor of your house. I couldn't find a charger, so I bought one for you. Let me just plug it in and charge it for you. Thank you, I said as he plugged the phone into the socket and placed it on the tray next to my bed. I understand you haven't had a chance to talk to a divorce lawyer yet, he said. No, I just woke up from a coma this morning, I said. He pulled out a business card from his pocket. That's exactly what I thought, he said. Call this lady as soon as you can. I do a lot of work for her, and I already warned her that you would call. She is very interested in your case and, by the way, absolutely hates traitors. Thank you again, I said. What happened after they ambushed me? Well, it looks like your wife has been planning this for some time, he said. She took a vacation shortly after you left for Pittsburgh. I don't think she planned to ever come back. Since your attack, she's been on the run with Hammond and her boyfriend, moving from motel to motel, never returning to your home. I tried to contact Detective Green several times to let him know where they were, but we kept missing each other. Yes, he told me that you two called each other, I said. So, any idea where Hammond is now? No, said Angus. I found out something. And if I hear anything, I will pass it on to Green. Sounds tempting, I said. Now what? Well, there's not much left to do except catch Hammond, Angus said. And you need to rest and recuperate. I'll come by and check on you from time to time. I appreciate it, I told him. He shook my hand and left me alone with my thoughts. When my phone had enough charge, I called the lawyer he recommended. The law office of Alicia Hawkins, the secretary said when she answered. I'd like to talk to Miss Hawkins, please, I told her. This is Jack Neely. She was recommended to me by Angus McGregor. 1 minute, please, the secretary said in her cheerful voice. A few moments later, I heard another female voice on the phone. Alicia Hawkins, she introduced herself. Is this Mr. Neely? Yes, I said. I learned your name and phone number from Angus McGregor. He advised me to call you. Yes, Mr. McGregor told me about your situation, she said. I was waiting for your call. I take it you're in the hospital right now? Yes, it is, so it's a little difficult to move around at the moment. And I'm also being hunted by an assassin, I said. That's what I heard, she said. I'll tell you what, Mr. Neely. I'm almost ready to end this matter here in the office. Why don't I visit you there? Would this be normal? Wow, I thought. A lawyer who takes house calls. That would be amazing, I said. Excellent, she said. I'll be with you soon. Alicia showed up with her briefcase about an hour later, and we spent the next hour discussing the details of my divorce. Although the state we live in is a no-fault state, divorces can be granted on grounds such as adultery or cruelty. Alicia said she would file the paperwork, citing adultery and extreme cruelty, especially since Julie hired a hitman to kill me, cheated on me with him, and then left me to die on the floor of my house. Her going to jail would go a long way toward helping me get what I wanted in the divorce, which was pretty much everything. She was putting her things back into her briefcase when Mel knocked on the door and poked his head inside. He smiled and entered the room after I waved to him. Good afternoon, Detective Green, Alicia said with a smile. Miss Hawkins, he said. I didn't interfere with anything, did I? Not at all, she said. We were just finishing up. Do you have news for us? Actually, that's what I came for, he said, sitting down. Well? I asked. Your wife confessed everything, he said. She said she hired Hammond to kill you and make it look like an accident. Why? I asked. Money, he said. And lust. She said she started having an affair with a work colleague, a guy named Sylvester Johnson. Do you know him? No, I don't know, I said. Turns out, Johnson is Hammond's nephew, he said. Your wife and Johnson wanted to run away and go to Hawaii, but they couldn't afford it. She looked into your account, saw your lottery winnings, and decided that this would be her ticket to heaven. I figured that between that amount and your insurance payout, she would walk away with $4 or $5 million. This isn't the first time I've seen this happen. This probably won't be the last time. The district attorney is seeking the maximum sentence of life in prison without parole. He also plans to recommend that she be held without bail, says that since she was caught trying to escape the city, she may be considered a high-risk fugitive. So Johnson is the one who set her up with Hammond? I asked. That's what she says, Mel told me. We detained Johnson, and I will talk to him later. If what she says is true, we will charge him too. What about Hammond? I asked. We're still looking for him, he said. Right now, almost every officer in the area is after him. Until we put him behind bars, we will keep a guard at your door, and there will be patrols outside your home. I shook my head in disbelief. I just don't understand it, I said. She never gave any hint that she was unhappy. Why now? Who knows, said Mel. People sometimes do crazy things when it comes to money. How long are you going to stay here? Doc says a few more days, I said. He wants to make sure everything heals well. Sounds reasonable, Mel said. Well, for now I won't bother you. If anything happens, I'll keep you posted. Thank you, Detective, I said. With pleasure, he said, standing up. Miss Hawkins, good to see you again. Nice to see you too, Detective Green, she said with a smile. After he left the room, I looked at Alicia. I take it, you know him? I asked. Yes, I represented his interests in the divorce, she said. So, I will deal with this matter and send your wife to prison. Let me write you a check for your advance, I said. Could you take my wallet out of your trouser pocket, please? Of course, she said, taking my wallet. I have a habit of keeping a blank check in my wallet just in case, so I pulled it out and wrote it out for the amount she asked for. She smiled as she accepted the check, then put it in her briefcase. We'll be in touch, Jack, she said, standing up. Good luck to you. Thank you for your help, I said. I watched her walk out the door, then turned my attention back to the TV. As they say, all good things must come to an end. After a couple of weeks, the doctor said I was well enough to return home. During this time, I had several visitors, friends and work colleagues, Angus and Detective Green, who kept me informed of the case against Julie and the ongoing hunt for Hammond. Mel told me that Sylvester was charged with conspiracy to commit murder. Julie received divorce papers while she was in prison and decided to accept the end of our marriage without a fight. Alicia told me that she signed the papers without any objections, which surprised me. In 60 days you will be a free man, she said. I received the house and all our property. Julia will be allowed to keep her car, clothes, and personal belongings. I called her parents, and they agreed to pick everything up. What they did with it after that is their business. Angus picked me up from the hospital and took me home. Just curious, he said. Do you have a gun? Just an old shotgun my dad gave me when I was 17, I said. It was a present for my birthday, and my dad took me out to shoot traps and skeet. These were some of my happiest memories. I still had the shotgun, but I hadn't fired it in a while. It lay, oiled, in my locked gun case. I also had a box of shells for this thing. Why did you ask? I asked. Hammond is still out there somewhere, he said. You might want to keep it handy. Crap, I thought. That night I pulled out the old shotgun and examined it again. It was in good condition, although I had not used it for a long time. I pulled out a box of ammo and loaded it. I thought about spending the night in the master bedroom, but I couldn't. Not after what I'd seen there before. So I slept in my deep chair in the living room, holding a loaded shotgun within reach. It turned out that this was a wise move. That night, I woke up late after I thought I heard some scratching outside the house. I grabbed the shotgun and looked around from where I was sitting. I only had one good arm, so I decided to use my left arm, which was still in a cast, as a support for the shotgun. I looked and thought I saw the silhouette of a large man just outside the sliding glass door leading to the backyard. As I watched, the silhouette moved and I saw a large pistol in one of his hands. Obviously, he hasn't seen me yet, otherwise I would probably be dead. I thought I could pounce on him, so I reached over and flicked the switch on my lamp. When I did, I saw him, James Hammond, and he was armed. He looked at me in surprise. I saw him start to raise his gun, so I raised my shotgun and fired. I chambered another round and fired again. This bullet hit him directly in the chest. I picked up the phone and called 911. Soon the room was filled with officers with guns drawn. I lowered the shotgun and raised my hands so they could see I was unarmed. One of the officers took Hammond's pulse and shook his head. Another officer called an ambulance. I spent the next hour or so giving statements to the police. Just when I thought it was all over, the ambulance arrived. Detective Green drove in behind the paramedics. Paramedics assessed Hammond and placed his lifeless body in a bag. Zipping him up, they placed him on the gurney and wheeled him away, stopping only to let Mel look at Hammond's face. "Are you okay?" he asked me. I nodded my head. I was still a little shaken up by the whole experience. I've never shot a person before, and I've certainly never killed anyone. Before that night, the only thing I had ever killed was a clay pigeon. "Yes," I said. "I'll be okay." Before speaking, Mel turned to the other officers. "Are you guys done here?" he asked. "We're wrapping up now, Detective," the sergeant told Mal. "Okay," said Mel. "Make sure I get a report on this as soon as possible." "It will be done," said the sergeant. Mel turned back to me. How about I buy you a cup of coffee after they finish? He asked. Yeah, that sounds good, I said. Let me go and throw something on myself. I don't think they'll like it if I show up in my pajamas. Probably not, said Mel. I left the living room and headed upstairs. After changing into jeans and a t-shirt, I went back down. The other officers had just left and Mel was waiting for me. Ready? He asked. Yes, I'm ready, I said. We left the house and got into his car. He took us to a 24-hour coffee shop near our house. We went inside and ordered coffee. I haven't had a caramel mocha in a while, so I ordered one. A large one. Mel grinned as he paid the bill. I thought you said you wanted coffee. He joked. Not liquid candy. It's been a while since I tried anything like this, so I decided to treat myself, I told him. We sat down and took a sip of our drinks. How are you holding up? He asked. I'm fine. Probably, I said. I've never shot at anyone before. I know how you feel, Jack, he said. Have you ever killed anyone? I asked. Yes, he said. The first time it happened, I almost threw up. I was just a rookie cop fresh out of the academy. I wasn't on duty for a whole month. Like you, I knew it was either him or me, and I was determined that it would not be me who would be put in a body bag. And you had the opportunity to practice, I said. Yeah. Well, I don't think you could ever really train anyone to handle something like that, he said. Lucky you. You know that, don't you? Hammond was a trained killer. Yes, I said quietly. I know. Well, the important thing is that you're alive and he's not, Mel said. Luckily for you, this state has lock laws, so you won't be prosecuted. Thank God it's so, I said. Mel smiled as I chuckled. He pulled out a business card from his pocket and handed it to me. I read the name on the card. Dr. Rose Carlson. I think you should call her, Mel said. She is the best consultant in this business. If anyone can help you get through this, it's her. Thank you. I'll do that, I told him, putting the card in my shirt pocket. We sat for a while, drinking coffee and talking about different things. Fishing, football, generally about manly things. After we finished our drinks, Mel looked at his watch. I need to get back to work, he said. Are you ready to hit the road? I'm ready, I told him. We threw our empty cups into the trash and left the coffee shop. He dropped me off at my house and wished me all the best. Don't forget to call Dr. Carlson, he said. I will be in touch. Thank you again, Detective Green, I told him. I watched him go, then returned to my house. I tried to get some sleep, but I couldn't. Finally, around 7:30 a.m., I got up, took a shower, and ate some breakfast. I decided that there was only one thing left for me to do. After making the call, I went to the county jail where Julie was being held. I sat in the visiting area and watched as Julia was taken out. She looked tired, and the orange jumpsuit she was wearing didn't suit her at all. She sat down in the chair opposite me and picked up the phone on her side of the plexiglass partition separating us. I picked up the phone on my side. Hi, Julie, I said. Hello, Jack, she replied. What do you want? I signed the papers. Now you have everything. I want some answers, I told her. How long has this been going on with Sylvester? I think you have a right to know, she said. Not very long, maybe 2 or 3 months. Why? I asked. Was I not a good enough husband or lover? Was it something I did or said? Why would you rip my heart out like that? I don't know, she said. I think I was fascinated by his charm. I know we talked about having kids, and I was scared. I was afraid that I would become fat and ugly and that you would no longer find me attractive. That's bullshit, Julie, and you know it, I said. It doesn't justify what you did. There must be something else. What is this? Is it because of the money? Julia lowered her eyes in embarrassment before answering. Well, I think so, she said. Sylvester told me we could use this to escape and start over. Maybe go on a trip around the world. So that's why you decided to kill me, Julie? I asked. Sylvester said he could arrange for me to get all the money plus your insurance, she said. without having to pay a lot of money for a divorce. And he introduced you to Hammond? I asked. She nodded her head. Did you know that Hammond was Sylvester's uncle? I asked. Julia nodded her head again. Yes, she said. Then why did you have sex with Hammond, and in our bed at that? I asked. He said he would give me a discount if I did it in our bed, she said. That's when you came in and caught us. And you just left me to die, I said. Tears streamed down Julia's cheeks as she nodded her head. Yes, she muttered, stammering. I'm sorry. Hammond is dead, I told her after an awkward silence. She looked at me in shock. What do you mean, dead? She asked. He came to finish the job you paid him for, I said. I killed him when he broke into the house. How? She asked. The shotgun my father gave me when I was a child, I said. Threw his ass back out the door. I completely forgot about that shotgun, she said. She looked at me with sad eyes. I'm so sorry about everything. Do you think you can ever forgive me? I laughed loudly, loud enough to momentarily attract the guard's attention. You've got to be kidding me, Julie, I said. No, I will never forgive you for what you did. And as far as I'm concerned, you'll have the rest of your life to think about it. I hope it was worth it for you. Goodbye, Julie. I hung up, not wanting to hear anything more from her. She hung up the phone slowly and looked at me with tears in her eyes. I stood up, turned around, and walked away. The next 2 months flew by. It took a while, but eventually I gathered everything I wanted and left the house. After making some minor renovations to this house, I put it up for sale and bought a nice apartment not far from my office. I was called to testify at Julia's trial, as well as Sylvester's. It didn't take long for the jury to find them both guilty on all charges. A week later, I was asked to appear in court for Julia's sentencing. The judge thanked me for my time and sentenced Julie to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Sylvester also received a life sentence. It turned out that I also had a life sentence, but mine was not served in prison. Julie's betrayal and attempted murder hit me harder than I thought. My body was healed, but emotionally, I was in pieces. I spent the next 2 years consulting with Dr. Carlson, who told me I was suffering from a form of post-traumatic stress disorder. I worked, came home, ate, watched TV, and went to bed. I went to the gym 3 times a week and went to counseling once a week. This was my life. I couldn't even bring myself to go out or ask a woman out. I just didn't trust anyone. Finally, Rose suggested that I put aside my fears and ask someone out. I mulled this over for a while before finally plucking up enough courage to take the next step. But I was wondering who I should ask out on a date. There were quite a few women in my office who were interested in me, but I was concerned about dating my coworkers. Finally, one day I decided to screw it all and invited Rhonda, a colleague who worked in another division of the company, to dinner. To my amazement, she agreed. We had a great time, and I felt more relaxed with her than I had originally thought. We didn't have sex on that first date. It happened after the 3rd date, and she turned my world upside down. We've been dating for about 6 months now, and things are going pretty well. She even introduced me to her parents, and we seem to get along great. Will I ever get married again? I don't know. Perhaps someday. However, now I just take everything in order. Who knows what the future will bring? Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.